Spurs versus United. It was once a formality, but United don't do anything easily anymore.
What the hell is even that?
Spurs seem to be in turmoil after that Chelsea defeat, with even rumblings of internal disagreements. But after a solid night in the Champions League, have things started to click into place for Thomas Frank now? United had 3 wins in a row and a trip to the Barbers seemed inevitable. Only for us to stumble up against 18th place Nottingham Forest, and the old habits when we're playing away from home seem to be creeping in yet again. I'm going to look at what Amorim's United needs to do to take down Thomas Frank's Tottenham before we head into yet another international break.
Not another one?
As always, guys, drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's get into it.
Right, okay, let's go.
After the game against City, where they pressed him off the park, Thomas Frank looked like a mastermind. Fast forward a couple of months, and Spurs seem to be in some turmoil, but they're still 6th in the Prem table, only 2 points off second place, much the same as United, so they can't be doing that badly. The Van de Ven goal against Copenhagen gave me flashbacks to that time at Old Trafford.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Also, having Romero back fit is a huge boost for them now. They definitely have weaknesses to exploit though, and this is where I want to get into what United can do come Saturday. Spurs have the most errors leading to a shot in the Premier League. The teams who had the most success up against them was first of all Bournemouth and then Chelsea more recently. What was the common theme in the approaches between these two teams when they faced Tottenham? Well, they cleverly pressed them into making the mistakes in their own half. Bournemouth cleverly used Tottenham's reliance on their right-hand side against them, forcing them down dead ends down their left-hand side, where Spurs had a lot of right-footed players, making the pitch even narrower. Chelsea used an aggressive man-to-man press, getting their goal in the game from a high turnover. Having Udogie back at left-back can help them access that left-hand side a little bit more, having a left-footed in there. But Spurs also do lack a little bit of technicality in the middle of the pitch as well. Carragher spoke about it after that Chelsea game. In midfield for Spurs, with Paulinho and Bentancur when they're in there, no one's really taking the progression responsibilities. They're both putting up good defensive numbers, but passing-wise, they don't reflect that of a top Premier League midfield pivot. Add into that Simons, who has the technicality, but has struggled with the physicality of the Prem, much like another 10 who's come from the German league. And you can see why Spurs have looked a little bit stale on the ball at times this season, relying on the special stuff from Kudus to get them over the line at times. Now, as far as United go, we know away from home we aren't the same team, but I'm begging for him to make that change on Saturday now. Can we see the same aggressiveness, especially in the press, that we saw versus Brighton? Can we see that again now up against Spurs? Can we see that away from home? I think if we allow Tottenham to settle, allow them to gain confidence, they'll come to bite us. But if we can make them edgy, force the midfielders to be in uncomfortable positions, force them now into mistakes, I think United can easily get something from this game. Spurs haven't won at home since the opening game of the season, but we know the United also have really struggled away from home in the Premier League more often than not as well. These struggles do seem to come as United are less aggressive away from home. Even Amorim said so himself after that Forest game, but I don't really know what the cause of it is, because we don't know whether the players are instructed to press a little bit less away from home, because you don't want to risk things as much. Or do these players just start sitting back, go into default mode whenever they got a bit of crowd pressure up against them? Whatever it is, I want that rectified now. We could go the other way, sit back against Spurs, rely on the counter-attack, ask Spurs, right, go on then, come and break us down. And they've struggled to do that at times this season as well. But for United, I just think that's a risky approach. We saw up against Liverpool, that game could have gone either way. United don't really look that solid defensively, even when we're in that solid 5-4-1 shape. You saw up against Forest how easily United can be switching off, defending our own box, and we still need to improve on that. Playing on the counter-attack does help us attacking-wise. We know the direct attacks for United, that's how United do get the majority of their goals. But I think defensively, it's a huge risk. And what sort of intent am I talking about? Well, up against Brighton, it wasn't perfect, especially in that first 20 minutes. But United were a lot more aggressive. Seeing Luke Shaw dropping in to mark the number 10 in these sort of positions. Even De Ligt, the centre-back, pushing up, really condensing the space in that midfield. Helping United's midfield too whenever they pushed on. It allowed United's midfield too to push on a little bit more. Fernandes and Casemiro could get up the pitch a little bit, press the opposition team. United were able to sort of go man-to-man a little bit more against Brighton, and we were able to win the ball back in some very dangerous positions. I'd like to see more of that up against Spurs, as if we can get them playing with a little bit more sort of nervousness in that home crowd, I think that's how United get the best results. And looking at what the lineup could be for United, we've seen this one in consecutive games now. I can see Amorim going with something a little bit different though. Whether we see Dogu come in on that left-hand side, Amorim spoke about Dalot's troubles obviously during that Forest game. Defensively, we know he was switching off left, right and centre. But also attacking-wise as well, Dalot is just struggling on the left-hand side. He's in so many positions where he could cross the ball in, but he simply doesn't because he's not on his favoured right foot. I think having Dogu out there, you get a little bit more balance. You've got the left-footed Dogu going with the sort of right-footed Cunha, the right-footed Fernandes, who tends to be next to him. So I think it adds a little bit more balance to that left-hand side. You're not being similar to Tottenham. You're not having someone who's going to constantly pass the ball in field all the time. Having Dogu in there just gives you a little bit more angles of play to work with. Defensively, it's going to be massive. That left-hand side of United is going to be going up Spurs' a more prominent right-hand side. So you're going to be going up against Kudus, Pedro Porro. That is Spurs' strongest area. So whoever plays in that left wing-back spot has to be switched on. I can see this being the lineup though. I can see Amorim going with Cunha up front again, bringing in Mason Mount. If Mount is fit, we know the defensive energy that he can bring. And that's why I think Amorim brings him in for this game. Take away some of the defensive responsibilities from Cunha, much like we did in that Liverpool game. You're having Mount in there for his energy first and foremost. Up against, as I've said, Kudus and Porro on that right-hand side. Having Mount's energy in there can do a lot to stifle Spurs' right-hand side. So that's why I think Amorim is going to go with this team. Whether it's Dalot and Dogu on that left-hand side, I'm not so sure. But I can definitely see Cunha being up front at Spurs. I can see this also happening as well, same as what we saw up against Liverpool. I can see Maguire coming in that centre-back spot. It would be a statement of intent from United for me that we're just going to sit back in this game, play on the counter-attack, sit in more of that 5-4-1 shape that we did up against Liverpool, do that up against Tottenham. And as I said, it can work. It's definitely an option. But I would like to see United be more aggressive. I would like to see De Ligt stay in that centre-back spot, have Yoro keeping on that right-hand side, having his pace, obviously, to have the cover, but then have De Ligt and Shaw doing that really aggressive press. I'd like to see that, but I can also see Amorim going with more of that counter-attacking approach. Let me know what you guys think. What would you do down in the comments down below? And there we are, guys. Whatever happens, it's a huge game for both teams now going into the international break. It could be the difference between one team finishing sort of second, third or fourth going into that break, or the team coming in sort of around 10th place. That's how tight things are at the top of the table right now. Absolutely massive game. Are we going to start the weekend off on a high? I just really hope that we can. As always, guys, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you after the game.